So someone said on Twitter, I think it was on Twitter, that we need to bring women shaming women for unchaste behavior back. What do you think about that?
I do agree with it, and I get in terrible trouble for it all the time. Um,
Good. That's what
you
we do here.
you might know from talking to me now that I'm actually a pretty nice person. I think I'm a pretty nice person. If you
Yeah.
just follow me on Twitter, though, you probably think I'm a little bit mean, and it's because of the nature of that app. I am often kind of pushing back, clapping back, if you will,
Mm.
against these types of women who want this sexual liberation. And why? Because it's their main source of power. And no, they don't want to give it up. So the only way they're going to give it up is if there's some shame involved. And again, people hear the word shame and there's a knee jerk reaction to be like, she's bad, she's mean. You shouldn't shame people. However, always in society, always, we are either incentivizing or disincentivizing certain behaviors by whether we see it as a positive thing and applaud it, or whether we see it as a negative thing and shame it to a certain degree. That's
Mhm.
why there's all this talk about Lizzo and healthy at every size and body shaming stuff. And it's like, it's kind of the same idea. I wish we could all live in this cozy kindergarten world where we can tell everyone that everything's fine, everything's permissible, every life choice is equally valid, every worldview is equally valid, but that's not reality. That's not how things work. And the result of trying to do that is you have 500-pound women who are physically incapacitated by the time they hit 30, and they're probably not going to last past 40. I
Mhm.
don't think that's nice. I don't think
Yeah.
that's nice at all. So I look at this the same way. I have gotten messages from women in their 50s and 60s who say, I'm listening to your audiobook right now and I'm bawling my eyes out because I fell for this stuff. And now I'm too old and it's too late and I can't go back and
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking. Like I'll get teared up and upset reading these messages from women. So I'm like, better that they get mad at me now for saying to them, hey, before you post another booby picture or another OnlyFans video, think about what your children, if you have children someday, are they going to see that when they're 50? Are you going to be proud of this later? To try to get them to think of it that way. A little bit of shame is a good thing, right? If somebody steals, we shame them. If somebody murders someone or our words someone, we shame that because it's bad behavior. It's bad for the victim. It's bad for the perpetrator. It's bad for society. So there are behaviors that objectively, I believe, should be shamed to some degree. Now, this doesn't mean that reformed women should be treated like garbage. This is another thing I disagree with. I don't think a high value man is obligated to marry you just because you reformed either.
Mhm.
So if you used to do OnlyFans and you have a body count sky high to the moon, but now you're 30 and your biological clock is ticking and you've decided to come to Christ and change, that's great, but it doesn't mean you're automatically entitled to
Yeah.
like some really high status guy. You might have to settle for Joe the plumber, who is a really nice person, but maybe he's 5'9", like
Mhm.
you still have a great life. You will still have a wonderful Christian life, a great family, a wonderful man. But this 6 foot, 6 figure, six pack stuff has got to go, for one thing. And the other thing is, we shouldn't be encouraging women to do things that actually encourage their physical, mental, and spiritual destruction. Telling women to open themselves up sexually is extremely dangerous for so many reasons. Leads to, a lot of women having abortions they regret later, to uh, getting them, like we discussed earlier, gets them into situations where they're more likely to encounter abuse or harm. It destroys their ability to pair bond. It destroys their self-esteem. And then they hit the wall at 35 and they've got another 40, 50 years of life that they now have to live with that history and that past and all that damage, and they have to try to heal from it.
Yeah.
Again, encouraging that is not nice. The nice thing is trying to talk some sense into them and shake them a little bit now while they're young and they can maybe turn it around. And I would love to see, like for my daughters growing up, uh, that maybe they won't have to do what I did, which is fight the entire culture, which tells them, take your clothes off, uh, stick your butt out and take a picture, let boys have sex with you when you're really young, all these things. Do polyamory, have multiple boyfriends, do stuff with girls, all these things that are encouraged in the culture that I know will destroy them. And they're a rebellious teenager going, why do I have to have the strict mom? Why do I have to have the parents that are always telling me no? But now they're 20 and 22, my oldest, and they've both like multiple times said to me, I used to think that you were like the strict, boring mom. And I'd always be like, oh, I wish I could have fun like my friends do with their mom. But I'm so glad that you didn't. I'm so like, thank you so much for not raising me like that. Thank you for caring enough to tell me no and try to, not let the culture raise me because I'm seeing what it's doing to my friends or like older ladies that they know at work or something like that. And they're very
Mm.
happy that they had parents that cared enough to tell them no. So it's not nice to encourage women in everything they do. It's not nice or kind. It's not being nice. Telling
Mhm.
people to do things that destroy them isn't nice. So we need to push back against this. It's okay to be 500-pound stuff. We need to push back against the promiscuity and all these life choices that we know. Like I said, we have tons of data. We have our own eyeballs. We can look around and see what this produces. It's not good for young women. So I always say, who's really the one that cares about women? Is it you feminists who are telling them to do all this god awful self-destructive stuff that also, by the way, prevents them from ever having salvation and reconciling with God? Because when you tell young women, you don't need humility, you don't ever have to apologize. You are perfect the way you are. You don't need saving, you don't need forgiveness. You are basically putting a giant wall between them and God. You're putting a giant wall between them and their salvation. So I think it is not me who is the one that's mean and doesn't care about women. I think it's the feminists who are destroying them in every dimension of their lives.